masculine. I have the strongest sense that you are just feeling completely scattered right now. Like every part of you has been shattered and scattered across the universe. And I recognize that feeling. I remember feeling that way multiple times, most especially when separation started. Like I'd been completely dismembered and couldn't find any single piece of me to pull back in. I didn't know where they were, I didn't know where to begin. But then I chose faith over fear, and I chose something that changed things, and for the better, for sure. I chose to remember. I chose to think happy thoughts. I chose to believe I could fly. I chose to embrace the absurdity of that enough to where it wasn't a lie. And I know that if you are feeling the way that I sense that you are, that scattered, shattered, dismembered feeling, then now is the time for you to remember, masculine. Mostly to remember yourself. I would say to remember me, and trust me, my heart, I still have selfish wishes and desires. I still want you to be mine. I still want to ride in on a white horse with my sword and rescue you and put you back together and take you home as mine. But as in my awakened states, I know that that cannot be done. It'd be much like casting some resurrection spell. The being that you bring back is never the one that you lost. Never quite the same. And I know that some things have happened recently that have confused you. Especially me really pulling away, really releasing us, really cutting away all the strings that have attached us in the 3D. And it was not easy for me, though it was a bit easier as I learned in my own remembering of who I am that we do not need 3D strings to be connected because we chose in this lifetime to be connected in ways that no one else is. I know that you've seen it, you ignore it. You are by far the most stubborn masculine I have ever met, and I cannot say that I am not equally as stubborn, though you take the cake sometimes, masculine. And I know that when Spirit made it apparent to me that you were able to keep on ignoring it and settling for far less than you deserve, that it was partially my fault. And not my fault as in, oh my gosh, I regret everything that I've done and I never should have done this sort of thing, but just simply in that if I had had faith in Spirit in the ways that I should have, if I had had faith in you in the ways that I should have, that I would have let go a long time ago. I would have cut away at these things right in the beginning. I would have allowed you to learn to swim on your own. Though that was my road to hoe, that was my lesson to learn. I was so afraid to let you be dismembered because I feared that you would not come back together, that you would forever remain that shattered being. Though then Spirit showed me not only did I manage to do it, did I manage to bring myself back together with the worst of odds ever, but we are cut from the same cloth. Yes, I know our 3D lives seem very different. The ways we grew up, our backgrounds, the social cultures that we had, even our age differences, but we are still cut from the same cloth and we are always going to be connected by an invisible string that can never be cut. And I knew that the only way for you to see that was for me to cut away at everything I had been holding on to in the 3D and everything that you had been holding on to me. And I laughed a bit masculine, I must admit, because when I cut away at the strings I had been holding on to, I thought that was it. I thought maybe it was just me. I got back on team Am I Crazy and thought, is it just me? Am I just being a stupid pining girl holding on to a masculine who wants to go? And what I saw instead was a masculine who was holding on tighter than I was and praying that nobody would know. And as I started to clip away at those strings that you had cemented very deeply, as I started to share my more twisted up feelings and to show you how you had really hurt me, knowing that you were not ready to face them yet, knowing that they would trigger your ego and you would probably hurt me more, knowing that it could be a while before we reconnected again. I just kept pushing and pushing, and I knew that either a time would come when I felt good with just letting it go, with being that feminine that thinks of you and prays for you every day without needing any 3D connection, or you would come towards me and say, no, feminine, this is not what I want. It's not what I want at all. And the funny thing is that you proved to me something that I was so afraid wasn't real, that there's nothing I can do to mess this up. Not even if I let myself get ugly. Not even if I get mean. There's nothing that I can do because I'm a part of you and you're a part of me and you do love me and I certainly love you. That's never been a question in anybody's mind. And when that was made clear to me, I knew that I must continue. I must sever the last 3D string and go back to working on me and leave you be and just have faith that much like I had to be dismembered so that I could remember myself and come back together, that you are going to go through that now too. That you must cut away and knock over your own towers and your own cups and stare at the contents and decide what you will put back together and why. What you will remember of yourself and what you will remember of me. I see visions of it, masculine. I know that you don't see it yet. For some strange reason, the timing of this has generally been to have me several steps ahead of you almost every time. And I suppose it's not a suppose. I'm extra grateful that Spirit has shown me that time and time again because if it hadn't and I hadn't trusted it, I would be only going off the 3D now and how upset you are and how caught you are in narcissistic dimensions. And I would be focusing on just the loss of things as they are, though I look back at our story and I realize when I trust myself, when I trust spirit, when I have faith in the unfolding path, the ever unfolding rose, as some call it, then I remember and I know that you do always eventually see that even when I'm being absurd, that there are moments that you, that even when I'm being absurd, you see it later. That there was a purpose, an intention, a reason, and that it was always good, that it was always love. And even when things get in the way and get in the middle, that once you come back to yourself, you always see that it's always been you and me, and that I was just simply willing to do the hard thing before you were. So, masculine, you're in my prayers every day now, and I spend all my time remembering you, remembering all the pieces of you, the good and the bad, the love and the pain, holding faith that you're coming back to yourself again. Now it's time for you to do the same. And I know that once you remember yourself, you'll certainly remember me.